Howdy guys, it's Millipedal,
And Pepper.
And Sid.
and today we're going to be talking about the UnderWorldly family tree. There are a ton of characters here, and we're going to break each family down, as well as talk about their individual backgrounds, relationships, and personalities. This list is going to contain both primary and secondary characters. Before we start, UnderWorldly is a world building project that I've been working on with my partner Pepper since 2015. If any of this interests you, I have more about the series on my Instagram, Twitter, and Wiki, all linked in the description. On to the video.
There are five main families that make up our cast, though really they're all one big family in one way or another. The Lees, the Verretts, the Clarks, the Plants, and Jack's crew. A tight-knit group of misfits and miscreants entangled in a deeper web than any of them would like to admit. These families consist of both underworldlings and humans alike, as well as a hefty handful of hybrids and experiments. And robots. There's a lot here.
Okay, here is the entire family tree. Don't worry, I'm gonna break it down. I just want you guys to see it in all its glory first. Before we get into it, I have a system here. Main or important characters will be highlighted in green, secondary, supporting characters in orange, and tertiary in red. Dotted lines are adopted or donor conceived kids, and parentheses around a name mean they're a partner from a different family, which I'll probably write off to the side. Let me go ahead and explain this fun bit right here. Okay, Casper raised Fira, and Fira built Seraph, who was supposed to be her mate, but stuff happened, and then he went on to father Lucy, who Casper is now married to. Can you tell that we started doing this in middle school?
Starting off with the Lee family, we have Seraph. As mentioned in the previous video, Seraph is Fira's first and arguably coolest creation. He started as a computer program, gaining data from the internet, before having his consciousness downloaded to his robot body. He was designed to be a mate for Fira, however, that didn't go as planned. Thankfully, their friendship was mended long ago and they were able to form their own families. Seraph has a heart of gold and a protective attitude over anyone he sees as family.
SM is the wife of Seraph and the greatest woman on the planet as proclaimed by her doting husband. She's never seen without her mask on due to something that happened when she was younger. SM dropped out of high school and cut off her abusive father shortly after her mother abandoned her, choosing to use her generous assets to her advantage and make a living as an escort. Unbeknownst to her, this would eventually lead to her discovering more about the world she lived in. After meeting Casper a few times through her career, she wound up being taken to the underworld by said Reaper. This, as well as a few choice decisions, unintentionally landed her into the arms of Seraph, and, well, the rest is history.
And a byproduct of said history is Lucida, SM's accidental pregnancy from her fling with Seraph and the rift that tore her and Casper apart. Seeing it as her only option, she made the decision to go through with her pregnancy and had Lucy. Sporting both human and robotic parts, she is easily identifiable by the panels on her face, her gray hair that she shares with her father, and of course, an extra pair of arms. Living a more sheltered life due to her appearance and no way to hide it, she clung to the few people that she had around in her childhood. After the main group made up, she was able to live a much more normal life, though, and she now has a family with Casper and a career in the labs.
Casper is the oldest in the family, having nearly 2 full lifetimes under his belt. His history while alive was a darker one. He endured parental abuse that affected his personality and led to his rebellious adolescent lifestyle, which eventually led to his death. His history after death saw the continuation of his mean streak, as well as a lengthy chapter of promiscuity, as well as overworking himself under his keeper, Jack. Though it took a while, his attitude and temper eventually leveled out, leading to a more carefree Casper. Sadly, this nonchalant attitude put a huge strain on his relationship with Lucy, as he struggled to commit to her for a portion of their relationship. Though this rocked their marriage, nearly ending it, they began a path of rebuilding trust and Casper was given a second chance, despite not really deserving one.
Anyway, Jura! Yippee! He's the first child of Casper and Lucy's and grandson of Seraph, and SM, I guess. Much to Seraph's excitement. He possesses both the sass from his mother and the carefreeness from his father. He's also been labeled a drama queen by some, especially his fiancée. He shares his robotic features with his mother, including some of his internals. He works as a wedding planner, hoping to make his own wedding a huge event one day.
Zack is the second of Seraph and SM's children, an uncle to Jura and a caring brother to Lucida. He was born in the post hologram era, meaning he had a much more normal childhood than his sister. While Lucy tended to favor Seraph in her younger years, Zack was more of a mama's boy, in more ways than one. Inspired by tales of her early life, definitely not told through rose tinted glasses, He kicked off his career with his girlfriend Cena as soon as he was able. They were fairly successful in these endeavors and eventually graduated from that type of content to full blown actors. Zach's current status has actually helped a few others in the cast acquire some positions in TV and film. They just had to put up with his snarky personality to get there.
Cena is yet another creation of Fira's, this time made for Zach. She had a similar beginning to Seraph, only this time her data was on Zach's laptop. This way, Zach could introduce himself and teach her things himself, killing two birds with one stone for Fira. The two hooked up almost immediately after her creation, and have risen together ever since. She now stands as Zach's equally successful eye candy to the public, but the two are as sweet as can be in private.
Fira was abandoned by an
By an egg.
Fear was abandoned by an egg.
Fira was abandoned as an egg and found by Casper, who raised her, though the two claimed they're only roommates. From a very young age, she was constantly tinkering, coding and building small-scale robotics, most of which ended up blowing up until she got the hang of it. Despite her smarts, she was an absolute wild child, literally. She's technically feral, mostly due to Casper's hands-off roommating. Roommating. After she lost Seraph, she completely lost herself in her work, eventually going on to work for Thomas in the labs, where she would work for days at a time, not sleeping and barely eating. Casper eventually stepped in and helped her, and shortly after she found a mate, Aster. She's definitely still a workaholic, but Aster's there to help rein her in.
Speaking of our boy, Aster is Fira's. Thank you for burping during my recording. Speaking of our boy, Aster is Fira's mate. He's the peak of country bumpkin lifestyle, always getting into trouble with the other dads and finding more and more crazy ass things to do. He is the yang to Fira's yin, pushing her to get out there and have some fun once in a while. When he isn't pestering his mate, he likes grilling, fishing, and swimming.
Yeah, Aster should play basketball.
Keep that in.
Icarus is Fira's first son. Shortly before she met Aster, Fira tried to fill the void in her life with a kid, a notoriously super good idea. She acquired the DNA from a random Reaper and had Icarus. Aster welcomed him alongside Fira and raised him as his own. And he's grown up to be a very spunky dude. He's actually Jack's newest Reaper, the newest addition to his team in almost 200 years, all to fully support his girlfriend Lily.
Ariel is Fira and Aster's daughter, born shortly after Fira clicked with Aster. She's a very soft-spoken young lady, but can absolutely shred someone if need be. Before she got with her current boyfriend Max, she briefly dated Zach, who cheated on her like it was an Olympic sport. But she's doing much better now with Max, and Zach helped her get a job as an animator as a half-assed apology when he got his fame.
Moving on to the Clarks, Thomas is a happy father of 4 and an overall jovial businessman. All jokes aside, he does care for his family and his business a lot. Possibly due to his constantly deadpan attitude, he isn't taken as seriously as he'd like. He's also not as stubborn as he seems to be as long as you know what buttons to push, like his family tends to. Fun fact, he really likes cacti.
J. Skilled businesswoman, negotiator, baker, cook, artist, lab manager, and an incredible mother to boot. In all her years of living, she's done a lot, both for her family and for herself. Jay found herself working as Thomas's head assistant while they were both in their 20s, advancing both her job and her personal life at the same time. It was a shock to everyone around them when Jay managed to get Thomas out of his shell a bit, especially the public eye. She even managed to get him to agree to start a family, as well as spend some money from his hoard to increase their state of living. Though Jay wanted a lot more than 4 kids, she wouldn't change a thing about her current family.
Lily is Thomas and Jay's first child and an aspiring businesswoman. She retains some of her father's stern business attitude. However, instead of being masked by a stoic demeanor, it's fueled by her intense ambition. She does still possess some enjoyment for baking, though. Whenever she's not dealing with her boyfriend Icarus's impulses, she spends a lot of time preparing herself for her future career.
Max is their second child, a green demon raised from an egg. Don't tell him I said this, but I think he might be adopted. Max has always been a sweet guy, usually having a lazy smile on his face. Since he was raised by Thomas and Jay, he isn't very connected to his demonic traits and tendencies. He's still struggling to learn about some of these things, but we love him all the same, despite his confusion. His love for music led him to a career in sound design and composing, sometimes even creating music for TV shows. Mostly Zach's.
Jackson is Thomas's younger brother and owner of a stylish afro. He practically grew up in the kitchen, learning all his mother's recipes at a young age. This led to his love for cooking, a passion that would flourish once he and Jay opened their very own restaurant. During a visit from out of town, he met James, who was staying in one of Thomas and Jay's spare rooms. James's history is a colorful one, being one of a very small handful of cursed humans. He spent a large part of his life in the underworld, gaining his magic along the way. Thankfully, meeting Jackson was the beginning of a new, more positive era of healing in his life. The two are currently married with a daughter named Jade.
Abigail is the original plant experiment. Starting off as Thomas's scrap personal project, the super cactus, Abby is the result of a massive mutation, potentially due to the presence of foreign DNA. Jay immediately became fascinated with this surprise development, practically snatching the project from Thomas. In her earlier years, she tended to act pretty feral, often causing trouble for the lab staff. She fully matured at 3 years of age, becoming a lot calmer and taller as she aged. She is currently the head of the labs, managing its major functions after Jay's departure.
Astral is Abigail's loving wife and Aster's sister. Unlike her brother, she's always been pretty mild mannered. She wound up meeting Abigail one day when visiting the labs with Aster and Fira and wanted to know more about her. After spending some time with her, the two fell for each other, and the lab staff agreed it would be good enrichment for Abby to have a partner. Nowadays, she spends a lot of her time relaxing with Abigail or following her wife around the labs while she works.
Alex is the first of Abby and Astral's kids and the second plant. He's the tallest out of his family, being 12 feet and 6 inches tall. Similarly to Abby, he was quite feral in his childhood. This fact is one he'd like to leave in the past, though, as he's calmed down significantly as he grew up. This doesn't stop his family from teasing him about it, though. He spends his free time running around the enclosure, relaxing at home, and cooking. His more animalistic tendencies can be seen coming out when he hunts, though this is pretty rare.
Miriam is their second child and the third of the plants. She also shared many of Abby's wild tendencies in her youth, only with Miriam, they never really stopped. She's known for being rebellious, constantly breaking out of the plant's enclosure and attacking staff. She's calmed down a bit recently, even being trusted enough to earn a security position in the labs. Nobody wants to cause trouble when you're being monitored by a 10-foot tall, hungry plant monster, especially one as eager as Miriam.
Harper is a creation of Jay's, modeled after Seraph. His flashier design and extra equipment is both to make him more efficient and a not so subtle attempt at one upping Fira. This built in superiority seems to have an effect on his personality as well, causing him to frequently remind others of his superior design. Harper took over Jay's business related responsibilities, being able to absorb Jay's knowledge pretty easily. Though Thomas isn't the biggest fan of having him around at work, he can't deny that Harper is good at his job. When he isn't working, he's following his girlfriend Miriam around like a lost puppy.
Jack, as mentioned before, is Casper's keeper. After Casper's death, Jack recruited him and began his training. Unlike other keepers, who can employ hundreds of reapers at a time, Jack has a much smaller ring of only 5 reapers, Casper included. Despite this, his emblem is recognized as one of the better groups due to the skill of all his reapers. Jack lives in the mouth of a cave with his wife Kate and 7 of his 8 children, his eldest son having moved out. He makes his house and all of his realm's features out of his own matter. Like other keepers, he has underworld connections that he makes trades with through his workers. While most of these expeditions are for Jack's item collection, many of them are just little gifts for Kate. For the first time in nearly 200 years, Jack has added a 6th Reaper to his group.
Seeking shelter from a hostile demon, Kate decided to duck into a dark cave for protection. Having stumbled into the abode that is Jack, Kate found herself enamored with him more than anything else, even rocks. Though she isn't much of a talker, she managed to hit it off quickly with Jack. The two of them were extremely eager to start a family, so they did. About 20 years and 8 kids later, Kate is fat.
Kate is fat is crazy.
I was about to say fappily.
Family?
All right. About 20 years and 8 kids later, Kate has happily found her mate. Kate tends to be easily distracted, happily indulging in her life, knowing she's safe with Jack watching over her.
We can't move on without talking about the Catelings, the only known instance of keeper hybrids. Before the birth of his children, it was believed that keepers were unable to reproduce, and many keepers think that this has something to do with God's favoritism towards Jack. Jack and Kate have a total of 8 kids, Jake being the eldest, followed by Nix, Verda and Rita, the twins, Philip, Mabel, Hunter, and Maya, their youngest daughter. The older siblings like to tease Hunter about not being the baby of the family anymore, much to his dismay. While Hunter seems to be more like Kate, Maya seems to get her sneakiness and mischievous behaviors from her father.
These are some characters who didn't really need a full page or a super deep explanation, so we kind of just lumped them all together. Nexa is Casper's and Lucy's second child and marriage band aid baby. In the midst of their pseudo divorce, Lucy found out she was pregnant, which obviously didn't go over well, but they're making it work and are slowly returning to normalcy after some very intense marriage counseling.
The twins, Leo and Michael, are the youngest of Thomas and Jay's kids. Thomas was a little annoyed, considering he'd only agreed to have 3 kids and this would make 4, but he loves them regardless. While they were crazy kids growing up, they've definitely mellowed out with age. And now, they're working in Jay and Jackson's restaurant, which they'll one day inherit.
Knox is Fira and Astor's second kid. He is absolutely insane, which isn't very surprising considering his feral mom and his crazy ass dad. When he isn't shredding the furniture or hunting bugs, he mostly spends his time hanging out with Jade, James and Jackson's daughter. Jade was donor conceived using Jay as a surrogate. She wanted to have one more baby, and since Thomas wasn't going to give her one, this was the next best thing. She likes doing art projects and playing princesses with dad number 1, James. Alright, that was all I had for today. If you guys want to know more about any of the things we discussed today, I have plenty of information on my channel and on the wiki. And if you want some content about any of these characters, I have a ton of art on my Instagram and some animations in my shorts. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. It really does mean a lot to see the funny numbers go up. And thanks for watching!
Millipede beats me.
No, I do not.